Hello and welcome to CheersToFearYT. We normally take horror movies and turn them into drinking games, but today we're making a liquored list episode where we rank movies in a series and order them from worst to best.
We do want to address that we have our laptop and phone just for a few notes. It's a little more informal for this video, just so we have some ideas on what we want to talk about. But don't worry about that, and we'll just jump right into it.
Yeah. I'll let you start.
Okay, so I don't know if it's going to be the same, but
It's not going to be the same, I can almost guarantee.
okay.
Yeah.
My least favorite Halloween movie in the franchise is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2
Oh.
from 2009.
Okay, I honestly wasn't expecting it to go that way, but mine is Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Yeah, okay, I'm a little bit surprised about that too, to be honest. Anyways, I'll talk about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 first.
Yeah, please do.
And then we'll get into yours. Pretty much, I hated the dream sequence plotline so much. Like, what were they even going for? I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt like a Friday the 13th movie in a way that Deborah Myers was trying to get Michael Myers to kill for her, in the sense that Jason's mom was trying to get him to kill for her. But it just fell flat on its face, and like, I hated everything about it. I didn't like the actors, I didn't like the characters. Even Michael Myers looked like a hooded assassin in this movie.
Yeah.
I hated that. Even with Laurie, her character is completely botched. Like, she turns into this anarchist rebel or whatever, and she's just, rebelling against everybody in her life. She's become she's lashing out at everybody, and I hated it. It's not the Laurie Strode that I know, I guess, and it just didn't work in my eyes. Even the first Rob Zombie movie, she was kind of a little bit more edgy, but this one just took it up a whole 2-3 levels, and I hated that part about it.
So I'll continue on with your point a little bit. I will say that next in my list is Halloween 2 Rob Zombie.
Okay.
So I agree with you on a lot of those points. Like, it is by far one of the worst ones in the franchise. Michael Myers got shot in the head and he's still fucking kicking. Yep. They really wanted to kill him off and just stop at movie number 1, but I guess his wife wanted a second movie and wanted to get some of that mad bank, so Rob Zombie made another fucking movie.
Yeah.
Everything you kind of said there makes a lot of sense. It is, like, the only redeeming factor is probably the most terrifying Michael Myers that there is, just because of the overall stature of him being like 6'6".
Yeah, but it was like that in the first Rob Zombie one too.
Exactly, yeah. But this is... Yeah, I completely agree. All the points that you made, I pretty much agree with for the most part.
Yeah, I'm just shocked at how low this is on my list because, I like the first Rob Zombie Halloween. It was a pretty decent movie, and I was like kind of looking forward to watching this one, and I'm like just shocked at how bad it felt.
Yeah.
For me, it just didn't work in any regard, pretty much.
Like, I remember watching this way before. Like, this is only my second time watching it. The first time, I remember disliking it a lot, and so therefore I was not excited to rewatch it.
Yeah.
So I rewatched it, and I felt the exact same way.
Yeah. Anyways, do you want to talk about Halloween 6, how you felt about it?
Yes. So my first comment is, what the hell is that? The whole cult of throwing things was way too long, confusing. There's no real reason to include it, and it ruined the character of Michael Myers. When you can successfully ruin the character of Michael Myers, there's a fucking problem in your movie, I'd say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of very dull acting. Paul Rudd is even included in that list, which is surprising. How do you fuck up Paul Rudd and Michael Myers? I guess the answer is including them both in the same movie.
Yeah, probably.
So despite them trying to have a whole plot of Thorn and trying to make the producer's cut, it's still just a jumbled mess. It feels like the exact same formula as like Halloween 2, 4, 5, and 6, even though some of those are definitely better in the franchise. So yeah, that's overall my thoughts on Halloween 6.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm not going to get into Halloween 6 yet, just because it's not the next one on my list. So we'll come back to Halloween 6 and move on to the next one, which you've already done your second to last, so I'll do mine, which... Mine, probably no surprise to you, is Halloween Resurrection. For me, I hated this movie. The concept was stupid. Michael Myers does not belong on a goddamn reality TV show. it didn't age well in my opinion. It feels kind of like the early 2000s slasher movie, but it didn't age well like a lot of those early 2000s slasher movies in my eyes.
Even a lot of early 2000s slasher movies, they have a little bit of a problem with. A lot of them aren't really like well done. Say that as you want, but Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer were like fine. Honestly, they're not in my like top 10 horror movies. Not even close, I think.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I don't really like the design of them, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and that's a fair assessment. But the acting was awful in Resurrection. I didn't like any of the characters. And why is Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks in this movie? I don't know. I'll never know. I hated that Busta Rhymes out of nowhere just becomes some karate master. That was really out of character and out of the blue. So many of the characters felt out of place, and there was essentially no main character. It was Sarah, I think her name is, but she didn't stand out in any way, so you don't know her as a main character.
Like, the only purpose she had was, like, she knew how to scream, so Busta Rhymes liked her, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. And I guess this movie has one redeeming quality, and I'll give it credit where credit is due. The opening sequence, to me, is okay. And it's the only thing in the movie that I kind of was interested in seeing. And maybe that's because Laurie Strode was involved in it, or maybe it was just done well because Jamie Lee Curtis is a good actor. But whatever it is, that's the only part of the movie that I actually liked, I guess.
Yeah, it's fair. So we'll move on to number 10 now. We'll go on to my number 10 here, which is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Okay, that's the same as me.
Okay, good. I knew we'd have at least one or two matching further down the line.
Yeah.
So what I have for this is the movie feels the exact same as kind of 2 and 4, so it's like using the exact same formula. It makes the ending of number 4 null and void, which I really disliked.
I agree. They set up Jamie to be the new Michael Myers, and then like they did that in 4, and then in 5 they completely just avoided that whole plot line and made her a mute, which I absolutely hated.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. They made her a fucking mute. One of the best actors in the last movie.
Yeah.
They just like, hey, how about that person doesn't speak? Instead, let's have a kid that stutters named Billy.
Yeah.
So, and better yet, let's make Billy say what the the mute person's saying.
Yeah, try to communicate what she's saying. It was cringy, to say the least.
Yeah. So on top of that, I also had characters basically made out to be a joke, such as the cops or Tina.
Oh, yeah.
Another very big problem I had with the movie is Michael Myers is just kind of in a bed for a year, and I'm pretty sure the hermit contacts nobody, just gives him free room and board for a year.
Yeah.
Which in a hospital bed in a regular house, it costs upwards of like, what? I'd say like at least $1,500.
For a whole year?
For a whole year, yeah.
A lot more than that.
Yeah, I guess you have to consider him having to change out his bedpan probably every day too. Nutrition, yeah, it's probably going to be like somewhere around like $10,000 if you at least include all that.
Yeah, and yeah, so overall the plot was just a jumbled mess, and for me this is just such a forgettable film, and the main reason for that is, like you mentioned, it just follows the same structure as Halloween 2 and Halloween 4, and like, especially with 4, 5, and 6, the movies are just so hard to order for me because they all feel like the same movie, and they're all, in my opinion, pretty much trash. Maybe 4 is a little bit better than the other 2, obviously I would say that, but especially with 5 and 6, they're just so, you can just pick one and like, it's just as bad as the other in my opinion.
Alright, moving on to number 9. What do you have for number 9?
Number 9, this for me is where Halloween 6 comes into play.
Okay, this is where I have Resurrection.
Okay, do you want to start with Resurrection?
Yeah, I'll start with Resurrection. Just a few of the points that you didn't touch on. The camera is just absolute fucking trash.
Yeah, I totally forgot.
They make it look like kind of a Big Brother-esque, except if Big Brother had like 0 production and 0 budget.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah. There was just randomly Jules and Vincent from Pulp Fiction, like I guess not them, but 2 people dressed up as them in a Halloween party. Busta Rhymes is the best part of the movie by far, just because of how fucking ridiculous he is and everything. A lot of the things that he says, like he tells off Michael Myers, and he listens.
That's the problem. That's such a problem in my eyes.
That's the reason why I love it so much. It's just how fucking stupid it is. It feels like a scary movie.
Exactly.
Not as good as Scary Movie for sure, but feels like it for sure. They killed off Laurie super quick, and in saying that, everything they showed doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest problem.
Yeah. Laurie's in the movie for about 10 minutes. Honestly, they could have started from Halloween 1 and they would have been fine. But instead, they just kill off Laurie. They have a single picture of John, and that's really it.
Yeah, we don't hear anything about John for the whole movie.
Yeah. Alright, so go on for Halloween 6.
Okay, for Halloween 6, so the main reason that I didn't rate it lower than 5 is because there was at least a couple cool kills that I thought were a thing. Like, for example, Jamie being killed on that farm equipment, getting stabbed through, punctured, or whatever. There was a couple gruesome kills that I actually, I guess, enjoyed. And obviously it wasn't a good film by any means. You could toss 5 and 6 up in the air and pick a random one and I wouldn't be mad which one you put ahead of the other. But for me, I hated the cult subplot, which they just dove deeper and deeper into and tried to explain shit that didn't need to be explained.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, the Cult of Thorn bullshit. It's all over the place. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to it. I don't know. Like I said, it was kind of up in the air which one you threw before the other for me.
In my opinion, I feel like there was just too much going on. There was too many cooks in the kitchen. Each person wanted to do something different with the series. Like the producers, the distributors, everyone, the director, everybody wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
So it just turned up to be an incoherent mess in many ways.
Yeah.
And you mentioned also the point of them killing not even Danielle Harris's character. That's the other problem.
Yeah. Well.
They killed off Jamie the exact same way that they did in Resurrection with Laurie. So I feel like that's also kind of a slap in the face.
Yeah, that's true. I do agree with those points, but the one thing that I will say is when I was watching this movie, the plot kind of seemed to be at least somewhat straight line through the whole thing. It had a continuous plot that didn't branch off to a million other places.
Yeah.
It was all pretty much the Cult of Thorn shit, so it wasn't a good plot, but at least it was straightforward.
Yeah.
Whereas 5, I felt like it went in so many different directions because it was coming from 4, which didn't have the Cult of Thorn stuff as much or any, and it branched off into that, and then it also branched off into Cult of Thorn, and then there was other subplots that went on, so it was just all over the place. And I think that's the main reason actually that I rated this one higher than 5.
Yeah, that's fair. So number 8 we'll go on to. What is your number 8?
My number 8 might surprise you.
Okay.
It's Halloween 2, 1981.
Okay. Mine is a little bit higher because my number 8 is Halloween Rob Zombie.
Yeah, so I think that's a more common assessment on Rob Zombie's film, so I'll let you go on that. It's more popular opinion, I guess.
Yes, for sure. So Rob Zombie's characters are I feel like very annoying and too gritty for the movie. Yeah. Whenever you think of Halloween, you kind of think of white suburban neighborhoods for the most part, instead of these white trash type of people that Michael Myers comes from.
Yeah.
A little bit of over-explaining the backstory, but I won't blame them too much for that because it's something different. They're trying different things. It shows his family life, and then he becomes, in quote, a silent killer. And he loves to kill. The start of the movie feels definitely fresh, as I said. Also, Danielle Harris as Annie makes the movie good, and Malcolm McDowell as Loomis. And another unpopular opinion is Malcolm McDowell is, in my opinion, a little bit better than Donald Pleasance, which is honestly super unpopular. And it just proves that I do like some of the performances in the movie.
Yeah.
It's just that a lot of it isn't great in execution, I feel, especially with the gritty style that Rob Zombie has, that he's known for.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I won't add anything on to Rob Zombie's Halloween yet, just because that isn't my next one either.
Yeah.
So I'll just carry on to my number 8, which was Halloween 2 I mentioned.
Yeah.
The reason why I rated it so low, and like I said, it's an unpopular opinion, and I get why there's a lot of people that do like it for creating the Laurie being the sister plot, you know, I do get it. But it tried so hard to copy the first one in every aspect, like not including the gore, you know. everything about it just tried to copy the first one, which if it was John Carpenter directing it, it's different because it's his movie that he's trying to copy, but because Rick Rosenthal just wanted to copy John Carpenter like that, it fell flat on its face and just felt bland in my opinion. Like there was some cool kills, like the hot tub face melt or whatever, I'll admit that. But it didn't have a single new idea. And then the whole Looney Loomis thing that happened, like he just went through the roof in how crazy he was. Like that's another thing that I just didn't really like that much. I liked Loomis in the first one. I liked Loomis a lot. And in general, I like Donald Pleasance as Loomis. But for the second one, it just felt like he just ramped it up with the craziness, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that.
Yeah.
So mostly it was just underwhelming, and it under-delivered on what makes the first Halloween so special.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So now let's go on to what we have for number 7, where you're at now.
Number 7 for me was Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
See, this is where I feel like it's going to get a little bit more unpopular, a little bit more unstable. For me, number 7 was Halloween H2O.
Yeah, I can get that. I'll start with Halloween 4. For me, it was honestly super hard for me to rank 2 and 4. Like with 5 and 6, you could have picked either one and put it in the other place, and I would have been fine with that.
Yeah.
So the main reason that I ranked 4 above 2 is because it had a new and unique idea over 2. 2 just tried to copy it, where 4 tried to copy it with a new idea at least. They tried to copy the look.
Yeah.
With Danielle Harris being Jamie and her eventually trying to become the new Michael Myers. I really liked that concept, and like Danielle Harris was a great actress, child actress, and I really do wish that they carried on from that plot point, but they didn't, which is why 5 and 6 are so low on my list. But obviously Laurie Strode wasn't in this movie, which for me, you kind of need Laurie and Michael in a Halloween movie to make it a great Halloween movie. So this isn't a great Halloween movie by any means, but I do feel like it's better than 2 for specifically the Danielle Harris point. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the 4th one. Nothing too much to say honestly, but if you want to talk about your Halloween H2O.
Yes, so the whole plot of Laurie being Carrie Tate and her suffering from still seeing Michael, I kind of like that. I feel like it's done better in other movies that are higher up. There's also development of her and her son as characters. It's really nice to see her son, especially seeing how he reacts to it. He's not the one that kind of had to deal with Michael Myers in the past. But again, like in saying this, there are some really good points to why people like this movie a lot more. It was a breath of fresh air, considering like 2, 4, 5, and 6 were all very repetitive, and as I said, a breath of fresh air for the most part. I didn't really get a lot out of the movie though. I felt like it was kind of bland and overhyped, and the reason I feel that it is like that is because it's a breath of fresh air, like people said. Sometimes the new formula works, sometimes it doesn't, but I didn't really get a lot from this movie, sorry to say.
No, that's fair. Again, we'll come back to H2O because I do have it a bit higher.
Yeah.
But I guess we can carry on to the next spot, which is the 6th spot?
6th spot, yeah.
6th spot. So for me, I had the new release, Halloween Kills, in this spot.
Okay, so we'll talk about Halloween Kills first here. I do have it as number 5, so I'll just put that out there.
Okay.
So Halloween Kills is my number 5, but we'll go on to my number 6 in just a minute here because I feel like these are so similar in rankings that we may as well discuss it at the same time.
Yeah, so I'll start with Halloween Kills then. For me, honestly, it was the 3rd act that dropped this spot, or it dropped this movie down a few spots, to be honest.
Definitely.
Like the whole lynch mob and town mob, or whatever you want to call it, forming and just running amok the whole city of Haddonfield, the whole movie, or not the whole movie, the whole last act of the movie. I just hated it, and it was too fan servicey with the characters, like we mentioned in our last episode here. I will admit that the kills were super good in this movie. I think they looked great, and they were just gruesome, and you know, it's not something you typically see in a Halloween movie, like the gruesome, gory deaths, like especially the good ones, like the original one or whatever. You don't see a lot of gore, but I liked the way that they portrayed these deaths, and they had a modern take on it in a way. So they did look good, but the whole town mob, third act, and the fan service is what dropped it down for me.
Yeah. So I'll add on a little bit more to that. Michael Myers just being a magician and magically fucking escaping all like death scenarios, like certain death scenarios, like a fire or what's another example? Firefighters or angry mobs is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So many plot conveniences. On top of that, they introduced new characters or like old characters for fan service just to kill off. That's the other main problem that I have with it.
Yeah.
In saying that though, it's ranked my number 5 just because, as you said, like a lot of the kills were great.
Yeah.
The flashback scenes were awesome, I thought.
Yeah.
Really well done.
I like those too.
The sound effects were really great, or I guess just the soundtrack in general, I feel like is the best for any Halloween movie, in my opinion. Anyways.
Yeah, the score was immaculate in this one, 100% for sure.
It shows what effects Michael Myers had on the town, which I think might have been a concept for one of John Carpenter's other movies, actually. But I think they scrapped it somewhere along the lines. But everyone really sees, like, kind of what this guy did to the town.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was interesting.
Yeah, and those are all really good points, and I do agree with all of them. I think, like I said, just the main problems that I had with it was the third act and just the fan service that they had. Like, it was cool for nostalgic reasons to have the fan service and be like, oh, that's cool. They had the original character, the original actress from the original Halloween movie, but that's all it was good for, and it wasn't good for the story.
And it happened way too much too.
Exactly, and that's why it dropped down a few spots for me.
Yeah.
It could have been ranked a lot better, honestly, but that's okay.
So we'll go on to my number 6 since we just brushed past up on that.
Yep.
My number 6 is Halloween 2.
Like the 1981 or the Rob Zombie?
I guess I've got to clarify. The 1981, is that the year it was released? Yeah. Rob Zombie one's way down there. And not Halloween Kills if you want to consider that a Halloween 2 because it's a sequel to Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
Fuck that timeline. So Halloween 2 1981 is my next one.
Okay. Number 6 spot,
Yeah. So there's a lot of pros and cons for the movie. So one example is how unintentionally funny the dialogue is at times, how comical some of the deaths are.
Yeah.
There are some great deaths, such as the face peeling off, like getting burned alive in scalding water.
Yeah.
Kind of gives me Friday the 13th vibes in the movies for deaths especially. Which, if you're going for that, I feel like Friday the 13th has a much higher floor for the most part. Like, you can watch a lot of the Friday the 13th movies and not really think too much of how bad the movie is.
Yeah, you're mostly watching for the kills.
Yeah, and I feel like that's precisely kind of what they did for the movie. They made it more Friday the 13th-esque, so it was better in a sense, because they tried to make that their floor. So I feel like the movie was better.
Yeah. But they also didn't do it like Friday the 13th because of the lack of gore, because Rick Rosenthal was trying to copy the original.
Yeah. So here's some other things that I didn't like about the movie. First of all, Jimmy being the world's worst paramedic, just basically spending every second he can with the drugged, may I remind you, Laurie in a hospital bed. And that's pretty much where she spends the entire amount of the film, in the hospital. So that could be better. In saying that, yeah, I feel like the deaths were great, honestly, in my opinion. Even if they were over the top, such as Ben Tramer getting fucking run down and burned alive.
It was a pretty iconic scene, I guess.
Yeah, one of the funniest death scenes in the entire franchise, for sure. But yeah, it also had the famous brother-sister twist, so there's that too. So that's why it's number 6, kind of middle of the road for me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I guess now I'll get into Rob Zombie's Halloween because you touched on it already. So with Rob Zombie's Halloween, I think I might be a bit biased just because when I was a kid, this was a movie that was on my cable on-demand movies.
Yeah.
And I watched it just all the time. And honestly, I watched it before I watched the original Halloween, before I even became a horror fan, honestly. So I'm probably biased a bit in watching it, I'll be honest. I will admit that the overall tone of the movie was a little weird with the whole, like, you know, redneck, white trash characters that Rob Zombie uses in his movies. They're just tropes of his at this point. But I do enjoy the new take that Rob Zombie kind of puts on the movie. We get to learn about Michael's childhood, which some people don't like. I think probably the popular opinion is most people don't like knowing Michael Myers' backstory, but I kind of like hearing his backstory, and it just, adds a little bit more character development for Michael Myers, and I'm not opposed to that idea. I kind of like that idea, actually. So I did like that for that reason. But generally speaking, I didn't like the cast, especially with Laurie. Like I mentioned for Halloween 2, she was just too edgy to be Laurie. Laurie's supposed to be this final girl, and final girls are kind of, I'll say preppy for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And Laurie was not preppy for Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Well, they were also kind of pure in a way too, right?
Pure, yeah, that's a good word too. Like, she wasn't pure by any means. So, I don't know, she just didn't fit the role of Laurie in my eyes. And other than that, you kind of touched on a lot of the other points that I had, so we won't spend too much longer on that.
Yeah. So I'll go into my number 4, which is The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween 4.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I know you said a little bit earlier that a good Halloween film generally has Laurie in it and Michael Myers, which I kind of agree to for a certain extent, but I do not think that's always the case, such as my number 4 film. With Jamie Lloyd being in the movie, I feel like she's a sufficient replacement for Laurie. Good acting, good take. I guess I also really do like to kind of see the connection with her and Michael, and it's a lot more direct, especially with the closing scene or the ending scene. It's really interesting, I'd say, for sure. I wish they expanded on that more. That was also one of the highlights of the movie for me, though. The closing scene, which there was a pretty big twist. Other than that, I also really liked Rachel. I'll say that too. She was a decent final girl, I'd say.
She was okay.
Yeah.
To me.
I liked her. There was a little bit of repetitiveness with Halloween's 1, 2, and 4 for the most part at this point. I just wish that 1, 2, and 4 was a trilogy, because I feel like that's a better send-off than adding 5 and 6 in there.
Yeah.
Also, something that I never mentioned, and I feel like this is just a weird fun fact at this point. So Danielle Harris's character also played a character on the Wild Thornberries, which I find hilarious. Because Cult of Thorn, Wild Thornberry is hilarious.
Yeah.
Subtle. Also completely coincidental.
So now I'll go on to my number 4, which this is where Halloween H2O falls into place for me. We've said it before, and I'll just say it again. It almost seems like you need Laurie Strode to make a decent Halloween movie. Like you said, it's not always the case with your number 4, especially with Halloween 4, sorry. But I do really enjoy the whole sequence involving her and Mike in this movie, like the fight sequence between them.
Yeah,
I really did enjoy that. It was it was pretty engaging and thrilling, and it was fun to finally see Laurie trying to defend herself against Michael more than like she did in the first one too. But this one she started to go all out. It obviously wasn't Halloween 2018 where she's a complete badass, but
we'll get into that.
Yeah, she is still defending herself more in this movie, so I did like that. Another thing that I did like about the movie is there were some cool kills, like specifically Jimmy having the skate in his face. I did like that. I wish we got to see the act of him getting a skate in the face, but we just saw the aftermath, which I still thought was a cool image at least. I also really like the scene where the girlfriend, I don't remember her name, finds her boyfriend, I also don't remember his name, finds him dead in the dumbwaiter or whatever, and then Michael Myers cuts the rope and it crushes her leg and breaks the leg, and she's crawling away. That whole scene, it kind of dragged on, but in a good way in my eyes. It just really, you felt the tension and felt for the character, honestly, and then her death was pretty gruesome as well, so I did enjoy that scene. And the last death that I'll talk about, it was just another quick one, but even the person hanging there dead from the light bulb was kind of a neat image to see, so I kind of like that as well. And just overall, the plot wasn't a jumbled mess, in my opinion. It doesn't try to rip off or copy another Halloween movie, just like some of the other ones did. They tried to go for the exact same tone. This one tried something a little bit new, and it's, Laurie 20 years later, so I liked that, and I liked the whole interaction with her son John, just him being against her so much. I did like that as well. So overall, I thought it was a pretty solid movie, and I ranked it quite a bit higher than you, but that's okay.
So now we will move on to our number 3s, which I feel like it's going to get a little bit more similar starting here because we have the same top 3.
We have the same top 3 at least.
My top 3 starts with Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Yep, same.
Yeah, okay. As we can tell from both of our lists, I feel like we both think this movie's underrated as hell.
Yeah, I would agree. It's completely underrated. It's got a unique concept that resulted in a pretty decent movie, honestly. Compared to some of the other sequels in this franchise, especially.
Yeah.
There's some hot garbage, like we've already mentioned.
Yes.
And I also just want to say that we do have the same top 3, maybe in the same order, I don't know. But we have the same top 3s, and it's almost objectively true that these are the top 3. Some people will have other opinions, obviously. But
some people will have other opinions of Season of the Witch, I feel, for sure.
Yeah, I guess. But even years down the line, Season of the Witch has a good feedback on it. It was just the opening, I guess, perception of it because it didn't have Michael Myers.
Yeah. It's the initial expectation that the movie would have Michael Myers, which is why it did so badly in box offices. For the most part, what I have is the plot was very intriguing. As you said, a lot of the other Halloween movies are garbage because they kept following the same formula.
Yeah.
And it didn't work half the time. On top of that, bleeds Halloween spirit. Every kid's dressed up. You look around one corner and there's more decorations.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I agree that it bleeds Halloween spirit in the sense of Halloween, the holiday.
Yeah.
But in terms of Halloween franchise,
no.
It doesn't feel like a Halloween franchise.
No, it does not at all.
That's why it's number 3, which is still a good ranking. It's still a good movie as a standalone movie. But I think the anthology route is a good idea if they would have went that route.
Yeah.
However, I just wish they didn't name it Halloween 3, simply because that sounds like a sequel to the previous movies, and, it wasn't a sequel by any means. So, the only reason it's a Halloween movie is because it's set in Halloween, like the time of Halloween.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, even them counting down the days till Halloween in the jingle, it just made me even more excited for the actual days of Halloween coming up.
Yeah, oh fuck, I hated that jingle.
It's always stuck in your head, and it's always stuck in your head and always will be.
Yeah.
On top of that, the only other point that I had is the story is strong, even though it's kind of jumbled, or I guess questionable, to say the least.
I mean, it's far-fetched, but that's okay. It's not like no other movies have a far-fetched plot, so it's acceptable, really.
Yeah.
I just wish they went more into it, because Conal Cochran just kind of plays it off like, oh, you wouldn't believe how we got it here. That please explain.
But pull it all. It sounds like a plot convenience. So.
Exactly. I will say though, I liked some of the effects in the movie, especially thinking about that one death where what is it?
The malfunction.
The malfunction. Yeah, it shoots a laser in her face and she gets that mouth expanding. And,
yep, super cool.
Yeah, I like that effect, and they didn't try to go. They went over the top, obviously, but it didn't look like super unrealistic.
Yeah, she looked like a Cenobite. I found that great.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I feel like that's it for Halloween Season of the Witch.
Yep.
Halloween.
So, number 2 spot?
Yes, my number 2 is Halloween 2018.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, I kind of figured
we'd have the same, but you go ahead first on Halloween.
Okay, Halloween 2018. Very few problems with the story, if any at all. There's some callbacks, but not enough to make it distracting, unlike Halloween Kills. The shots in place of Laurie and Michael, I love that. Just it kind of shows her descent into madness because of the effects of Michael from the first movie. So that's just a few of them, if you want to touch on some of those too.
Yeah, I did like Laurie in this one as well, especially like I mentioned with H2O, how she turned into a badass and was fighting Michael. Specifically for the 2018 one, it's just she's actually a full-on badass where she just wants to hunt Michael.
Yeah, this one's a completely different movie in comparison to H2O. I feel.
Well, absolutely.
It's a different beast for sure.
Yeah, and it did have that modern feel to it, and also a modern look. Like, some of the kills were pretty gruesome. The cinematography was immaculate. It looked good, and sounded good even. Everything. It's hard to find a lot of things wrong with the movie.
Yeah, it really is. Allison was even a good female lead for the most part. It shows everybody's obsession with Michael Myers. It doesn't show what Michael Myers wants for the most part. And as you said, soundtrack was great too. Like, there really was not a lot of problems with the movies.
Yeah. And you mentioned Allison, and I think the whole dynamic with Laurie and her family was really good, and I like to see it because, you know, she didn't have a good relationship with her family, and they were kind of thinking she raised them wrong for trying to be protective of this Michael Myers figure and stuff, and they just thought it was overkill and stuff. And I get that point of view, especially they don't have any experience with it. It's all her own experience, and they felt like she was just obsessing over it, which she was. We learned.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like that whole dynamic with her and her family.
Yeah, she was obsessing over it, and the weird part is she was right. Like, she was both right and wrong. She was wrong to do it, but she was right because of the results that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that brings us to number 1, which is the original Halloween.
Yeah, obviously. For me, it has to be the original number 1.
Yeah,
because
I tried so hard to kind of think of a reason to put Season of the Witch or the 2018 one up here, but it was just so hard.
Yeah, like, this movie pioneered the slasher genre.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's not the first slasher movie, like we said in our review on it, but it's the first one to help cement those tropes.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just pioneered so many amazing franchises and horror icons.
In saying that, the film aged significantly well. Like, for a 1978 film, it still holds up today for sure. Like, just even with the effects and everything like that, it still does really well. It holds up. Iconic shots everywhere.
So many iconic shots.
Everywhere. John Carpenter did an immaculate job. The movie was very simple to understand, but it was a very good concept for the most part.
Oh yeah, and with Laurie Strode, I think this is her at her best. She's the definition of a final girl, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, this is where the final girl became a thing, and, you know, again, created those tropes of a final girl, and I think that's just another kudos to the original Halloween for how much it started.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I kind of wish that this was a standalone movie. Part of me wishes that, I mean, at least take away some of the sequels before the 2018 timeline. Like, I do like the H2O timeline, minus Resurrection. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, I would have been happy with a standalone Halloween movie.
I think a lot of the movies are good for themselves. Like, I don't regret watching a lot of the movies.
A lot of them I do, though.
I just wish a lot of those didn't exist.
Yeah.
I can go all the way up to, like, Halloween 2 or Halloween H2O on my list. So, like, the top 7, top 6, I'm fine with. You can delete everything else afterwards. Everything else afterwards isn't great. The Rob Zombie ones, Resurrection, 5 and 6. Yeah. After that, I don't think too highly of a lot of the Halloween movies.
Overall, as a franchise, like, if you were just to take Halloween franchise as one whole, it's pretty low as a whole compared to some other franchises. I feel like some of the other iconic horror franchises are worth watching in comparison. So now we'll just do a quick debrief on each movie, giving it our final overall score, and then averaging out between the two of us, and give you our final order for the list.
Yeah, so what we did for the most part is we discussed earlier beforehand that we'd kind of give each movie a rating from 1 to 10 within a 0.5 kind of variable. So we could do like 6, 6.5, 7, so on and so forth. So we decided to do this before we even made the lists.
Yeah, so we'll just quickly go through this. We're going to go in the order of release date. So the first Halloween and then the second one, and go through it that way, rather than going in order of our list, just because we differ in so many ways. So we'll start with the first Halloween, released in 1978. My score was 8.5.
The first one. Yeah. Mine was 9.5.
Which gives us an average of 9, which is a solid rating. And then on to Halloween 2, released in 1981.
My rating for that one is 6.0.
So mine's 5. So 5.5 for that one. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, released in 1982. That one for me was a 7.
That one for me, Halloween Season of the Witch is 7.5 for me, so that would be 7.25.
Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers, released in 1988. What was your rating for that
My
one?
rating for Halloween 4 was 7.
Mine was 5. So let's call that a 6 then.
Yep.
Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, released in 1989. My rating for that one was a 3.
My rating for that one was 3.5.
Okay, so 3.25 for that one.
Yep.
On to Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, released in 1995. For me, I rated that 3.5.
My rating for that was 2.
Okay, so we'll call that 3. We'll call it 2.5. 2.75. Yeah,
There we go.
2.75. Halloween H2O, released in 1998. For me, it was a 6.5.
For me, 5.5.
So 6.
Mhm.
Halloween Resurrection, released in 2002. 2.5 for me.
Halloween Resurrection, 2.5 for you.
Yeah.
My Halloween Resurrection was 3.5.
Okay, so 3.
Yep.
For Rob Zombie Halloween, the first one,
Rob Zombie Halloween, the first one, I have a 4.
mine is a 6, so average of 5, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Zombie Halloween 2. Go ahead.
Is yours? Oh boy, mine's gonna be a 2.5.
Mine's a 1.
Oof. Yep.
So 1.75. Halloween 2018. What was your rating for that?
Halloween 2018 was a 9.
7.5 for me. And so that gives us an average of 8.25. And then finally, last and not quite least, Halloween Kills. What was yours for that?
Halloween Kills was a 6.
Mine's 5.5, so 5.75.
Yep.
So, I mean, there was a few that we differed on a lot, but especially the top 3, they were all the same.
Yeah.
Because they're just, it might not be objectively better, but in my opinion, it's objectively best.
Yeah, in
best
our
3.
opinions, it's objectively better. So in saying that, I guess we'll also create a list of what our order is combined with our averages for ratings.
Yeah, and we'll show that on the screen now, and just to give you an idea on what our overall averages are amongst the two of us. And we share a lot of the same opinions, but take it as you wish. And with all that being said, this has been our Liquored List episode for the Halloween franchise. And we hope you enjoyed it. And if you want us to check out our most recent video, click on the box on the top right. And if you want to see the playlist involving all of our other drinking games, click on the box right below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying, cheers to fears.